In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, I testify that there is no true God worthy of worship except Allah, and that Muhammad is Allah's true slave and messenger. We continue the explanation of the second hadith, which is known as the famous hadith of Jibreel encounter with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this hadith is the hadith of teaching the deen to the ummah through this encounter and this question and answer session that took place between Jibreel alayhi salam and the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. And we reached the point where Jibreel was asking the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam by telling him, akhbirni an al-ihsan, akhbirni an al-ihsan, tell me concerning ihsan. What is ihsan? And ihsan, the word ihsan is an infinitive from ahsana, yuhsinu, and it means badlul khayri wal ihsan. It means striving to do that which is good and to do well and perfectly. In relation to the rights of the Creator, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that would mean you base your worship upon sincerity to Allah and upon following to the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And the more you are sincere, then and the more you are following, then in this case kunta ahsan, you would be striving in the best or better way. And with respect to the ihsan, doing good to the creation, this means striving to do good by helping people with your wealth or your prestige or your status rather in the society or the like. So the Prophet ﷺ answered Jibreel by telling him, al-ihsanu an ta'bud Allah. Ihsan is that you worship Allah, and the worship of Allah cannot be manifested or realized except by fulfilling two matters. First matter is the sincerity in worship, sincerity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the second is the mutaba'a, the following of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And ta'bud Allah, you worship Allah كأنه يراك, as if كأنه يراه, as if you are seeing him, or the person as if the person is seeing Allah. And this ibadah is ibadatu talabin wa shawq. Is this ibadah, this worship is a worship of seeking and yearning. A person would find in such kind of worship, he would find motivation, seeking the one whom he loves and thus worshipping him as if he sees him, turning to him, returning to him, seeking means of nearness to him subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَاهُ فَإِنَّهُ يَرَاكَ. For though you don't see him, he verily Allah sees you. So therefore worship him by means of awe and don't oppose him, because if you oppose him, then he sees you. So worship him the worship of one who fears him, the one who fears and flees from his punishment and from his torment. And this degree of worship is lesser than the former one, meaning the one which is worshipping Allah out of yearning and seeking. So therefore we have two levels of ihsan. We have two levels of ihsan. Martabatul talab wa martabatul harab. Martabatul talab wa martabatul harab. Two levels of ihsan. The first level of ihsan is the yearning and seeking Allah out of love, and the second is fearing and fleeing him out of awe. And the first rank, seeking Him is to worship Allah as if you see Him. And the second rank, the rank of fleeing, which is called al-harab, is to worship Allah while He sees you, and therefore be mindful and watchful, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about Himself in Surah Al-Imran in chapter 3 verse 30. Chapter 3 verse 30. وَيُحَذِّرُكُمُ اللَّهُ نَفْسَهُ وَيُحَذِّرُكُمُ اللَّهُ نَفْسَهُ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns you concerning Himself. And therefore now we know, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns you against Himself, meaning His punishment, and Allah is full of kindness to His slaves. Now, so these statements, you worship Allah as though you see Him, and the other one are two distinct statements, and the first one is more perfect than the other one, and that's why the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam used the other one secondly, meaning he firstly used the first one, which is the worship as though you see Allah. Then jibreel alayhi salam asked him the following question. قال فأخبرني عن الساعة. So tell me concerning the hour. You see, you notice here when he asked him about the ihsaan, when Jibreel asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about the ihsaan and he answered him, you notice now that he didn't say sadaqt. Now he didn't say to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he didn't say to him sadaqt, you spoke the truth, because sufficient were the first ones. Sufficient were the first ones which came in the early response of Jibreel to the answer of the Prophet ﷺ in the first questions. Then he told him, أخبرني عن الساعة, tell me about the hour. And as-sa'a, the hour, is the resurrection of people from their graves to the Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of all that exists. So it is the resurrection, and it is called as-sa'a because it is a doom and very great and horrifying. قال الله عز وجل, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم إن زلزلة الساعة شيء عظيم. In Surah Al-Hajj 22 verse 1, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم إن زلزلة الساعة شيء عظيم. O mankind, fear your Lord and be dutiful to Him. Verily the earthquake of the hour, meaning of the judgment, is a terrible thing. So the Prophet ﷺ answered him. He answered him by saying, one who is asked knows more than the one who is inquiring about it. ما المسؤول عنها, meaning himself, the Prophet ﷺ, بأعلم من السائل, no more, يعني he knows no more than the one who is inquiring about it, meaning Jibreel alayhi salam. And the meaning here is that إذا كنت تجهلها فأنا أجهلها. If you are unaware of it and you don't know about it, then also me. And I can tell you, because لأن علم الساعة مما اختص به الله عز وجل, because the knowledge of the hour is something which is very particular to Allah عز وجل. قال الله تعالى in Surah Al-Ahzab 33 verse 63, يسألك الناس عن الساعة قل إنما علمها عند الله وما يدريك لعل الساعة تكون قريبا. People ask you concerning the hour. Ask you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, concerning the hour. Say in response, the knowledge of it is with Allah only. What do you know? It may be that the hour is near. And also in Surah Al-A'raf, chapter 7, verse 187, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يسألونك عن الساعة أيان مرساها قل إنما علمها عند ربي قل إنما علمها عند ربي. They ask you, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, about the hour, the day of resurrection. When will be its appointed time? Say in response, the knowledge thereof is with my Lord Allah alone, and none can reveal its time but He. And heavy is its burden through the heavens and the earth, and it shall not come upon you except all of a sudden. And they ask you as if you have a good knowledge of it. The knowledge thereof is with Allah alone, but most of mankind know not. قل إنما علمها عند ربي لا يجليها لوقتها إلا هو ثقلت في السماوات والأرض لا تأتيكم إلا بهتة. It should not come upon you except all of a sudden. And therefore we must therefore belie and denounce everyone who specifies a duration for this life in the future. And anyone who says of that or believes him, then he is a kafir, then he is an unbeliever. And what we hear from some of those superstition or some people who work with magic and the like, that the duration of this life is such and such, based on whatever time elapsed, then it is a duty upon us to say with our tongues and in our hearts that you lie. And anyone who believes in that himself becomes a kafir. Why? Because if the one who is most knowledgeable from the messengers of mankind and the greatest messenger and the one of the greatest angels and the greatest messengers of the angels, jibreel alayhi salam, both of them don't know when it will occur, then those who are lower in rank by all means don't know without any doubt. So when he told him مَا الْمَسْئُولُ عَنْهَا بِأَعْلَمَ مِنَ السَّائِلِ, the one you are asking doesn't know more than the one who is asking about it. So then he told him, then after that he told him أخبرني عن أماراتها. Then he told him أخبرني عن أماراتها, then tell me concerning its signs of its drawing nearer, indications, how close. These are known as the conditions of the hour. قال الله عز وجل فهل ينظرون, in Surah Muhammad verse 18, in Surah Muhammad verse 18, فهل ينظرون إلا الساعة أن تأتيهم بغتة فقد جاء أشراطها. Do they then await anything other than the hour, that it should come upon them suddenly? But some of its portents, indications and signs have already come, and when it actually is on them, how can they benefit then by their reminder? So it has its indications and its signs, and this is better to use than conditions. And these indications and signs, the ulama classified them into three types, into three categories. First, signs that passed and ended. Secondly, those that are still continuously occurring, and these are the middle ones. And then finally, indications and signs which will be closer to the timing of the hour itself. These are the major ones. These are the major signs. And from the signs mentioned in this hadith is his saying from its amarat, from its indications and signs, أن تلد الأمة ربتها, and in another narration ربها. Al-ama is the slave girl, ربها meaning her master. Now this word ربها or ربتها, is it really referring to an individual, in essence a slave girl giving birth to her master, woman or man, so that it will give birth to someone who will be a master to other than her? This is another meaning. So we have two meanings here. Is the term ربها or ربتها master? Is it intended, is what's intended by this the kind or the individual? There's a difference of opinion. As you have heard, there are two opinions. Some of the scholars are with the opinion that the slave girl will give birth to a master to other than her, not to her. A master not of her but to others, and therefore here the meaning would be the kind, it will be a jins. The other meaning is that the slave girl herself, in essence, will give birth to her master or woman or man, and in this way the master would the born master, the born babe, will be her master later, either because his father is her master, or that he will take over after his father and thus becomes a master of her. The stronger meaning is the first one, meaning the kind, meaning that the slave girls give birth to those who will be masters and also possessors. So she was owned or possessed in the beginning, and therefore will give birth to those who would become masters and possessors. And this is an indication of the fast change of conditions. And in support of this deduction of meaning is the statement that came right afterwards, and وَأَن تَرَى الْحُفَاةَ الْعُرَاةَ الْعَالَةَ, and that you will find barefooted, destitute goat herds vying with one another in the construction of magnificent buildings. So barefooted, those barefooted people, عُرَاة, destitute, they don't have enough clothes to cover them, and also destitute, they don't have enough to eat or to live or to spend and the like. So they are poor. You would find them vying with one another in the construction of magnificent tall buildings. Vying. And this, the buildings, the vying, is it in their construction tall or beauty or both? The answer is both. It refers to the magnificent in terms of how tall the building is and how beautiful it is. So they vie each other who's going to go higher, and they will vie each other also أيهم أحسن, which is better. And in the beginning they were fuqara, they were poor, having nothing, finding nothing. However, this indicates تغير الحال بسرعة, the change of conditions very quickly, and this indicates مما يدل على قرب الساعة, indicating the closeness of the hour. Now there is a case now. هل وجد التطاول في البنيان أم لا? Is this vying in the construction, did it really take place or not? The answer is Allah knows best. It's possible that something of this took place more than in our times, and that each people and each generation, they may encounter such vying in construction, and each generation would say, its people would say, هذا من أشراط الساعة, this is from the signs of the hour, and Allah knows best. However, لكن هذه علامة واضحة. However, this matter, this vying is a clear sign. Then afterwards, ثم انطلق, then he. Now Umar is narrating the hadith, right? You remember that. Then he spoke about what happened after this conversation. Then he, Umar said, then he, the inquirer, meaning Jibreel, went. Now at this moment they didn't know that he was Jibreel. Then he, the inquirer, went on his way. فلا بثت مليا, but I stayed with him for a long while, meaning with the Prophet ﷺ. And this period, maybe it was 3 days, and it was said even longer or even shorter. However, this word maliya indicates longer time, long period, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about Maryam in Surah Maryam 1946, when she said wahjurni maliya, wahjurni maliya. So he, the father, said, do you reject my gods, Ibrahim, and if you stop not, I will indeed stone you. So get away from me safely before I punish you. But this translation of the meaning does not fit the term maliya properly. Nevertheless, it means a long period. Al-Mali means long period. عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. ثم قال يا عمر. So the Prophet ﷺ then said, O Umar, أتدري من السائل? Do you know who is the inquirer? قلت الله ورسوله أعلم. I said, Allah and His Messenger knows best. He, the Prophet ﷺ, then said, قال فإنه جبريل. He was Jibreel, the angel, Gabriel. And it's possible that the Prophet ﷺ may have found Umar later and asked him this question, أتدري من السائل? طيب. Do you know as to who was or who is this inquirer? فقال عمر الله ورسوله أعلم. Allah and His Messenger knows best. And therefore this tells that Umar رضي الله عنه لا علم له من هذا السائل. من هو هذا السائل? This tells that Umar didn't know who was this inquirer. فقال النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام فإنه جبريل. He was Jibreel, the angel. أتاكم يعلمكم دينكم. He came for a purpose. He came to you in order to instruct you in matters of your deen. So this brings the end of the hadith, and then inshallah tomorrow we will discuss the benefits of this hadith. And our Shaykh rahimahullah said concerning this hadith, he said, concerning the benefits, he said, this hadith فيه فوائد كثيرة. There are so many benefits in this hadith. فلو أراد الإنسان أن يستنبط ما فيه من الفوائد منطوقا ومفهوما وإشارة لكتب مجلدا. If a person intends to deduct the benefits of this hadith, عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته, stated or understood or by indication, then he would compile volume. And inshallah tomorrow we'll go over some of the benefits inshallah ta'ala from this hadith. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa